Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi, and today I have the first Series 11 team report, a team that did really, really well in Series 8, and I promise you, it doesn't have a Venusaur, it doesn't have the Torkoal on it, and I'm joined by a very special guest, Vishy. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys?
So do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I technically started VGC, or I learned what VGC was back in 2016, or the end of it when the 2017 season was happening. And I just decided, okay, I'm gonna go to this regional because it's like 30 minutes from where I live, which is Anaheim of 2017. So I tried to practice a little bit on Showdown. It just didn't go well. I ended up using a bunch of Wonder Trade Mons into that regional. Did not go well. Well, it went okay, but the next year, or Worlds happened, and then Ryota won with his Whimsicott team. And like I was like, okay, wait, this seems kind of fun. You just make things faster, and then they just KO Mons. Just like that. Seems like not that stressful. Seems fun. So I picked up Whimsicott, and I've never looked back since then. It's probably the most featured Mons on my team, on all my teams.
Yeah, you've definitely. I mean, the go fast, hit hard has definitely been, I guess, your motto. You've been known to use really like aggressive teams with really interesting Pokemon, and this one's no exception. This one has some really unique choices. So can you talk me through your team building process and why you chose to use Kyurem and why you chose to use Absol?
Okay, so when I originally built this team, or the first version of it, I just wanted, like, I started off the team with Whimsicott because I hadn't played much Series 8 at that time. Like, it was 2 weeks after the format started, around then, and I thought, okay, a lot of people are using, like, max speed Zacian, Calyrex Shadow. What Mon outspeeds those in Tailwind and can KO them? And the answer was Incineroar. So the first two Mons on the team were actually just Whimsicott and max speed Incineroar. Because it hits 112, which just barely outspeeds both Mons and Tailwind. And the offensive investment is for just to KO No Bulk Zacian, and that's about it. And the next Pokemon I wanted to add was something that I thought was strong into Kyogre and Groudon, which were also relatively popular then. And that was Kyurem. And because Kyurem resists a lot of Kyogre's attacks, you can even bulk through it with Earth Power. A popular team then was Genius's Tornogre team. And I thought that Kyurem did really well into that. You can max it against almost any of its Pokemon, if I remember correctly. And I remember there was this really nice calc, which led me to, which sold it for me. It was that Helping Hand max Hailstorm would KO Kartana. And so that just it just destroyed one of the best teams in the format. And then the next two Mons I added were Metagross and Alecki. Alecki because, well, extra speed control is always something I really value, and one of the best speed control users is Alecki. It also hits several Mons that it hits several Mons on that Tornogre team too. If I'm being honest, this originally started out as like a Calyrex Shadow Tornogre counter team rather than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I mean, those were probably the two most dominant teams early in the metagame in Series 8. So it makes sense to team build to originally beat those.
Yeah, and then Metagross was, Metagross I just added there because it helped me, Solgaleo was also, I think Pato got top 8 with it in that same tour that Lapdog won, or was it Tornogre beat Lapdog in? I can't remember correctly. I think
Yeah, Tornogre beat Lapdog in the finals, but there were 4 Lapdog in top 8.
Yeah. So Solgaleo was also in the top 8. I think Pato used it. And so far, if you look at the 4 Pokemon that I mentioned before, all of them just get destroyed by Solgaleo. So I just added Metagross because I thought, okay, it can help me break through it. And then I don't think there was much Calyrex Ice until a couple weeks later after that, but that just made me keep Metagross on the team. And I also thought it was kind of cool that I could maybe set Hailstorm in some games and then just start pressing Blizzard with Kyurem and it can't miss. So Metagross is basically, it helps me break through Mons like Solgaleo and Duskmane and later it was Calyrex Ice. And the last Pokemon is probably the Revolving Door. Yeah, so originally it was an Umbreon, which I think is the Pokemon I would add, like if it wasn't Absol. That's like the second best, I think. Because it also like helps with that aforementioned Solgaleo matchup. Because it can bulk through, it can press yawn, put things to sleep, maybe give you more turns, stall Trick Room if necessary. And but the problem with that is that I just couldn't beat Pokemon like I couldn't beat certain. I was still losing to certain Pokemon that were pretty common, like Charizard. I'd often lose to. Like there, I think there were like Tapu Fini. It didn't do well against, and or like it just couldn't do damage. So the only Pokemon on my team that would be able to do it would be Regieleki, which I just can't have. And after that, it became a Galar Zapdos because I thought that, okay, if people, maybe it deters Incineroar, like, which wasn't really a problem for my team since like my physical attackers at the time were, well, Clear Body and just my own Incineroar. When an opponent doesn't bring Incineroar, it just makes navigating the matchup so much easier for me. But the problem with that is, again, it didn't help with the certain matchups such as Charizard, and then especially Thundurus became a huge problem again, which Umbreon would have destroyed, or would have been better against, I should say. And I lost to you in Players Cup 3 with that Zapdos version, and then I realized, okay, so this team is going to be really popular in the IC. And another team that I thought would be popular is the support Thundy builds, because, well, it's a best of one format. So if you're going to bring it out, that's when I think support Thundy would be brought out. And Absol is one of my favorite Pokemon since I've been playing, I guess, since like I was 7. So I just decided, okay, no one's used this set in VGC, and I don't, or if they have, I've just never seen it. So why not try it? It's an IC. And it put in way more work than I ever expected it to. Stone Edge always crits, so it just breaks through those Grimmsnarl teams.
Yeah. I remember, I think the same IC, Moxie Boosted, said he was going to use Absol. And he tweeted out afterwards, like, wow, this mod sucks. And then like a day later, you tweeted out saying that you had finished first place in North America in Players Cup 4 qualifying using Absol, which is, really, really incredible to see that Pokemon put in so much work. But yeah, like the team itself, you use Kyurem for basically all of Series 8, correct?
Yes.
So, I mean, it was really cool to see how this evolved, how you put it together, and how, as the metagame evolved, you managed to continue to develop the archetype to constantly find responses. I know that our matchup in Players Cup was first off, it was really close, it was really intense. But I remember looking at it and seeing a Kyurem-White and thinking, wow, this is awful. Like, how does Groudon beat Kyurem-White? And it turns out that like just having a really bulky Charizard with screens and residual damage managed to like let me survive for long enough to like slowly chip down. And it's really cool that you found, and I mean, and obviously like Grimmsnarl, Venusaur, Grimmsnarl, Charizard has just been everywhere ever since then. Not just my team, but with the European version of the team, with the Zacian versions of the team. And so it's really cool that you managed to find a response to the like Grimmsnarl, Charizard, Venusaur cores that are now everywhere, using such an unorthodox Pokemon and an unorthodox restricted. So do you want to talk me through the individual movesets and why you chose the EV spreads that you did? You talked a little bit about them, and why you chose the specific moves that you did.
Sure. So there's really not much to say about the EV spreads. Like most of them are 252, go fast, hit hard. But I can say the Incineroar, it just barely outspeeds the Calyrex Shadow and Zacian and Tailwind, or max speed Zacian. And the minimum attack needed to KO no bulk Zacian, which was popular at the beginning of the format, but not so much later, was the 116 attack, which also hits the jump point as well. And then I just invested the rest into HP. It was an even number, so I just gave it a Citrus Berry. So
So
Because
you were never
yeah,
Jolly in Incineroar, right?
nope, never.
Okay, because I think that Kunal told me after our set in Players Cup that you were running Jolly in Incineroar. And so I had that in my head the entire time. Because my team was also running max speed Adamant in Incineroar. I don't think the speed tie ever came up.
Well, yeah, I don't think you brought it, so
Yeah,
yeah,
max speed Incineroar, really good when you have speed control because of it can just barely outspeed Calyrex.
yeah. And then the other not 252 spread was the Metagross, which I just made it max speed. I don't think I had a particular reason for doing that. It was what does it hit? It hits 122. Yeah, I don't it outspeeds Scarflaily. I don't think that was popular. I don't know why it was there, but just as fast as possible. And then I put the rest into attack. It hits 187, which is the jump point. And once that happened, I just put the rest into HP and the extra 4 and 4 to optimize it.
Why did you choose Stomping Tantrum and Ice Punch as your coverage moves?
So the main purpose of Metagross is just to bulk through attacks. So it wants that defense boosting move, which is it honestly could be Iron Head. I just like using Meteor Mash. I don't know why, but and then Stomping Tantrum, it's a ground move. It raises special defense, and the reason for Ice Punch is to I don't really think it hit anything in particular, like maybe a Moongus, but it just set up Kyurem. It like set Hail up. You could maybe get off Blizzards if possible. Maybe if you got something down into a 2 versus 2 scenario with Kyurem at the back and they had Groudon at the back, but you got your Hail up, you could win in the end. And situations like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
And well, the Alecki, it's just you don't want to lose Alecki speed ties, in my opinion. And Absol, it's only I like Jolly would have been really nice here since at it hits 139, so if it's in Tailwind, it would always outspeed Regieleki. But the problem is you lose out on a bunch of important KOs. And I think like you have a chance to KO Solgaleo, if I remember correctly, or if you're Adamant, or with Helping Hand, and then just hit Darkness if that ever happened. And there were a few more important ones that I can't remember off the top of my head, but oh yeah, you can't KO Porygon 2 with Helping Hand in a crit close combat anymore. So I just thought Adamant was better.
Mm-hmm. And so with Scope Lens and Super Luck, as everyone knows from Togekiss, you have a 50% chance of getting a critical hit. Very frustrating to play against when you are relying on your defensive bulk, on your screens, or on defense boosts. But with Absol, it also has moves like Night Slash and Stone Edge that have a boosted critical hit rate. So those moves always critical hit,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
Yeah, so it's just I don't like Charizard, I don't like screens. You just Stone Edge your problems away. 80% of the time you're hitting.
I think part of why Grimmsnarl was less popular, through like series 1 through 5, despite being, an incredibly powerful Pokemon as we're seeing now, is because of the omnipresence of Togekiss and which kind of like invalidated screens to some extent. And so now it's cool to see another take on the Super Luck strategy where you really just have this really powerful counterplay to one of the most common Pokemon in the format.
Yeah.
You told me before we started recording that you hadn't been playing a ton of Series 11 very recently, but if you were to make any changes to the team moving into Series 11, would you make any changes, if any?
To the Absol specifically, I think there are multiple better moves in close combat that came into play during the IC that I thought, okay, I could have won these games if I had it, or it would have been useful in these situations. And those moves are just Protect and Sucker Punch. I think they can go over close combat. But the other 3 moves are almost necessary.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then can you talk me through how you approach some of the more common matchups in this metagame?
So I'll start off with Groudon, or just Groudon screens itself, since that one in Zacian screens is popular. So for Groudon, a lot of it is just, okay, set up, like maybe kill the Grimmsnarl, make sure it can't touch Kyurem in the back, because you don't want it to Spirit Break, Scary Face, Thunderwave, anything like that. You can't let that happen to your Dynamax Pokemon. And you're basically always Dynamaxing Kyurem in that matchup. Helping Hand and Blizzard, if the Charizard, well, they often have a Charizard, but if it's not Life Orb and they don't have screens, I mean, if it's not Assault Vest and they don't have screens, then Helping Hand plus Max Hailstorm will KO the Charizard, which is really important. And the other Pokemon that they have, Incineroar usually goes down if it's not Assault Vest in one hit. So it's basically just try to get rid of the Grimmsnarl. If it sets up Light Screen, that's fine. If it sets up Reflect, you're in a great position. So yeah, that's how I approach that matchup. For Zacian, I want to lead Incineroar, usually. While in the other match, I'd probably lead Absol and Whimsicott. In against Grim Zacian, I think the most common one was Willfires, right? Or Kevin Salvatos with Landorus, Charizard, and I think so. So in that matchup, I would lead Whimsicott and Incineroar because it safely leads into everything. But the first turn is a bit harder since you don't have like a guaranteed play. If they lead Zacian, they're either gonna press Substitute or Protect and try to switch in their own Incineroar, or they usually don't attack with it. So what I do is just try to double down the Grimmsnarl, get rid of it, just like in the other matchup. Try to set up Kyurem in the back. And if you get Kyurem in Tailwind without them having a sub up or having a Mon like Alecki, or if you have a Mon like Alecki in the field that can remove the sub, then you're in a prime position to win after that. What were other matchups? If I was playing a best of 3 in, like, say, the Players' Cup and they had an open team sheet, if they had Calyrex Shadow, or the typical Whimsicott, Calyrex Shadow, Thundurus team, I would lead, even though they have a Thundurus, I'd still lead Whimsicott and Incineroar into that, because oftentimes sometimes they'll get greedy. A lot of the times that I noticed from Showdown, those players may get greedy and like try to, I don't know, Helping Hand Mudshot to try to KO your Incineroar because they don't know that it's faster, they don't know that it's not that bulky, and so you might get a free Tailwind up and then Darkest Lariat would KO. And otherwise, like if they're playing safer, they either Protect or switch out, so it's not like you're losing much.
And so I guess some other matchups, Calyrex Shadow is a big one, but there's so many different variants of it that it's hard to like have one consistent game plan. And like you said, you have Absol potentially in the future with Sucker Punch. You have an Incineroar that can outspeed it. You have a lot of tools to be able to beat it, which is all you can really ask for.
Yeah.
I guess some other matchups, Calyrex Ice is a big one. There's a couple different variants of Kyogre that are still very present. And then the two different variants of Groudon, I guess you kind of have similar game plans to both of them. But yeah, I guess those are the main ones that I would think about.
Yeah. Is Lapdog popular at the end of the format again?
So Lapdog was not very popular, except I have seen a little more of it recently because I think Can't Fly won the IC and won Japan Nats qualifiers with the Lapdog variant. But that one was much more aggressive. It had like weakness policy Lapras.
Hyper Beam Porygon too, I think.
Yeah, Hyper Beam Porygon too.
Yeah, if I was facing traditional Lapdog, then I'd probably involve Absol more so, just because that it will break through. Well, it can't crit the Lapras, but it can crit every other Pokemon on the team, so it still does huge damage.
I think Can't Fly's Lapras was actually Water Absorb, so you might be able to crit it, but you obviously don't want to take that chance unless it's open team sheet.
Yeah.
And so how would you approach the like the Kyogre matchup, both like more traditional Tornogre? You mentioned you do pretty well into Genius's team, as well as maybe like the team that won Players Cup, which is like Sunrain.
Right. I'll start with Sunrain. That had Grimmsnarl, Metagross, and just Whimsicott, Urshifu, and Kyogre Torkoal, I think, or Venusaur.
Yeah, and then I think in Global Finals, the Metagross was replaced by Incineroar.
Ah, okay. So basically, that one's just, it's another, you just have to get rid of the Grimmsnarl as fast as possible. It's not like any of the other Pokemon pose too much of a threat to you, because, or like, as long as that Grimmsnarl can't do anything to you. I don't even know if it had Thunder Wave or
It did
Scary
not. It had Sucker Punch as its flex move.
Okay, then I probably would be leading Kyurem is almost a guaranteed safe play then. So I'd lead Whimsicott Kyurem. And I'd probably bring a few mons like Incineroar at the back, Regieleki at the back. And that would probably deal with it, because even if the screens go up, as long as like Kyurem can maybe bulk through it, then you're probably fine. You just kill all the Pokemon except for maybe the Kyogre, leave that for last. If Aleki's still alive, you win. And for Genius's version, I wouldn't lead Kyurem. I'd probably lead either Whimsicott Aleki or Whimsicott Incineroar. And oftentimes they lead Torn Kartana or Torn Aleki themselves. So you're either getting your speed control, or and then you'll have like Incineroar at the back. Like maybe you can intimidate the Kartana so it can't really touch Kyurem that much. And then Kyurem beats the Kyogre at the back. It beats what is most likely the Aleki at the back. Or not Aleki, I'm forgetting the mons of that team. Basically, oftentimes they bring the combination of Whimsicott or Tornadus, Kyogre, Kartana, Incineroar, Aleki, any of those 5. Which Kyurem can destroy all of them.
Definitely, yeah. Like you said, you those are the Pokemon that you had in mind when you put Kyurem on the team in the first place. So
yeah,
makes a lot of sense. And then the last team that I think everyone has to have a game plan for is Colossal. So how did you approach the Cole matchup?
So if I knew this earlier, then I probably would have approached it differently, because now like I'm looking at all these Colossals and basically none of them are max speed modest. So even if they drop two speed points, or I guess 8 EVs in speed, then Kyurem will actually outspeed them in Tailwind. It's that close.
Oh wow, Kyurem is 95 base speed, right?
Yeah, it's 95. If Colossal is 79 speed or lower, then you'll outspeed, I believe. Okay. Or even 80.
So if you were facing a Colossal, would you just go for that?
It depends, because if it has a Yveltal, I'm gonna assume this is Joe UX9's Colossal, and he dropped speed. So I think it depends on the person, I guess. But game one, I'd at least try to find out like what its speed stat is. So I think I'd go for game 1, and then game 2, I'd probably lead Whimsicott Aleki. And then, or if it's max speed, because they're obviously going to do the same thing again, like assuming I lost. So Whimsicott and Aleki, if they led Urshifu Colossal, then like oftentimes they will, like if they Aqua Jet, then if you press Helping Hand and Thunderbolt, then you can KO the Colossal. Even if you press just Tailwind and Max Lightning, I'm pretty sure Colossal will be in range of something really weak. So it's either yeah.
And this is after we find out that they're not max speed. So they like if they are max speed, then they probably don't have a ton of bulk investment.
Yeah. Another play that you can go for is just to max guard with Aleki. So if they vocal it into Aleki and you just press Tailwind, next turn you have a guaranteed Helping Hand Max Lightning into Colossal, which will KO from that range, because it'll be at like 70%.
Right. All right. That is good to know. Colossal dropped a little bit in popularity at the end of the format, but Colossal is best when people aren't prepared for it. So you got to know your matchup. That's the number one rule, I think, in this format.
Don't lose to Cole.
Just don't lose to Cole. If you lose to Cole, you're fired. You're out. And so that's a really good overview of how to use the team. And so do you want to talk about, and of course, as you mentioned, you used this team in the Players Cup 4 qualifiers, the IC, and you went. I think you had your record here. You went 29-7 and got first place in North America in this competition.
Second because Riley beat me, but
oh no. Okay, so you got second place in North America in this competition, which is really, really impressive. Again, with such a cool team. And did you have any notable matches, I guess, in this tournament or throughout the format that you wanted to talk about?
one match that I want to highlight is it was against Mastermark's team, I think. There is a game where it just came down to like just setting up it's an example of setting up Kyurem at the back because his team had mons like Zapdos, Rillaboom, Metagross. And so basically I just intentionally had to let Absol go down to a Metagross and bring in Kyurem and then I needed helping hand Max Quake to KO Metagross, and that just worked out like that. And it just KO'd the entire team like by itself. It 1v4'd.
Yeah. I mean, that Kyurem is just so powerful. It's got like a base 170 special attack stat, right?
Yeah, 170.
I mean, it does so much damage. It's got a spread move. I imagine a lot of games came down to just like positioning it so that it can end game with like Blizzard or with its coverage moves, where your opponent's Pokemon don't even need to be that weak. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially against like a Kyogre team. And so I also know that you tweeted out some of your highlights from Absol, just like critting through everything and taking a bunch of KOs. And so that was really fun to watch. And yeah, so I really encourage everyone to try out this team. It is such a cool team. It is a great example of how you can team build in order to beat the metagame, even with Pokemon like Kyurem that don't see as much play. This is how you should build those teams, just like really tailoring them to not only maximize their power, but also to beat these things that are common, that are a little problematic for it. And I wish that I had recorded our set because it was a really close set. It was really intense. It was one of the best sets I played in Players Cup. And this team looks like so much fun, and I wish that I had gotten to watch other sets with it. I wish that it had been like streamed or recorded. So I'm hoping that you guys try it out and save the videos because I want to watch this team play. Yeah. So did you have any final words or shout-outs that you want to give?
Shoutouts to SG. That's about it.
All right. Yeah. So, and as per usual, the rental code is on screen right now. The link to the Poke Paste is in the description. You can also go check out FlyingFalcons7, aka Vishy, on Twitter in the description down below as well to get all of his crazy teams from all the future tournaments he's going to be entering. And thank you all for tuning in. Again, I'm glad that I finally get to showcase this team 6 months after it was, after it got its result. Yeah, it's a shame that it never got its time to shine in Series 8 because I really do think it is one of the coolest teams coming out of that metagame. And I'm glad that now that we are revisiting the format, people will have a chance to use it. And yeah, so again, thank you all for watching. And until next time, I will see you all later.